So if you're new to Doulos, welcome. We're really glad that you're here. My name is Scott, and I actually have the privilege of working with Crew and Doulos here at UF. And so, as our sign says, we want to build spiritual legacies in every house so that we can reach UF and the world for Christ. So it starts with your pledge class, your chapter, the Greek system, onto the campus, and then onto the world. And so we're just glad that you would take a few minutes to spend some time with us tonight. If you haven't been to Doulos before, we're in the midst of a series through the book of Psalms. So if you have a Bible or on your phone, you want to open up to Psalms. I want to introduce our speaker tonight. He's a friend of mine. He's actually one of the pastors at Greenhouse. Anybody here go to Greenhouse? Yeah, there you go. And so I've always appreciated him from a distance. You know, he's a pastor, so you're not really friends with pastors, are you? Are they friends? Yeah. So, but thankfully, this past fall, I had a chance to be in a small group with Robbie and his wife Amanda, and so I got to know him just as a person, which has been really great for me. And I really appreciate his heart for the Lord and the way he communicates God's grace in his life. And if you've ever been at Greenhouse and have heard him speak, he always has this huge smile on his face. And so he's just really inviting. And so Robbie is a grad of UF, so that's good. He was an ag econ degree major. So you AGR guys can hit him up later, talk to him about that. Robbie's been married for 12 years to Amanda. They have 3 or 4 kids, something like that.
Or two.
But Robbie loves college students, and he loves you guys, and he's really excited to share. So give him a good Doulos welcome, Robbie Johnson.
Everybody, thanks for having me tonight. And I'm going to dive into Psalms in a second, but I figured I would start with telling my story a little bit. I'm from a small town called Mayo. Does anybody know where Mayo is? Somebody snap for that or something? What's the snapping for again?
Just kind of like a
So it's right next to mustard and ketchup and between that. I actually was applying for a job when I came to Gainesville, and the guy said that joke to manager, so I didn't find it funny either at the time. And super small town, came to Gainesville back in 1996, but crazy set of events, man. I really didn't know God at all. I had no relationship with him whatsoever and was completely unaware of God. Kind of like an agnostic. I wouldn't call myself an atheist. It was more just like I didn't care. Wasn't aware, didn't care, didn't even like sense his presence or what he was doing anywhere whatsoever. And actually, when I went off to college, I went to a junior college over in Madison, close to Tallahassee, and I actually I played junior college basketball for a year. The season went so bad, I got addicted to drugs. And it's kind of a joke, but not a joke. We were pretty bad, but it was crazy though, because some people will sample with things and goof off with things and play around with things, but somehow or another I got hooked in a whole bunch of things. So I'm 18 years old. For the next 4 years of my life, it was like a whirlwind of addiction after addiction after addiction. I was a pool hustler, so I started making money by taking money from people shooting pool. So all the pool halls around Gainesville, I used to hang out with them all the time. I'll still go to them sometimes. They're like, Robbie, good to have you back. And I'm like, well, I can't really do that anymore. And so between, I call myself I'd wake and bake most days. And if you've ever smoked pot or been in that circle, that means you wake up and you roll over and you take a bong out and you hit it. And that's kind of how you start your day, and that's how you flow all day long, every day. So I got addicted to a whole bunch of stuff and just a crazy whirlwind of stuff. So a couple crazy events happened. So I graduated high school in 1994. I know that dates me. I'm about 38 years old. I am 38 years old. And I came here in 1996 after 2 years of running crazy, thinking Gainesville would have something different for me. Got here, continued that circle for 2 or 3 years. Failed out of college. I went to Santa Fe. I don't know how you fell out of Santa Fe, but I mean 3 F's and a D at Santa Fe. Got kicked out of that. It was just a bad cycle in life. And but then something crazy happened, and we're going to read about this in Psalms 39 in a second. But my sister had a baby, and I remember being in the hospital. It was in March of 1998. She was at the hospital, and she had the baby. I went in the room. They're like, "Hey, here's this newborn baby." And if most of the guys in here probably never held a newborn baby, it was the first time in life for me. I was 22 years old. I picked up this newborn baby, and it was so pure and so innocent. And I looked at her name was Grace. Actually, they named her Grace. And I remember looking at this little girl, and I felt so just disgusting, and like I was all of the world and she was none of the world. And I remember just not being able to really hold her. So I handed her back to my sister, and I left that hospital room, and I walked to the parking lot, and my other sister was there, and I was like, I gotta do something. I'm a really messed up guy. I mean, I just felt so disgusting. And I said, I'm gonna start working out now, and feel better about myself. I'll get in shape. And so I started working out, and I started trying to do things better. But the problem wasn't just the externals. The problem was there was an internal dysfunction deep inside of me. It wasn't just the limbs or the fruit. It was actually a root deep in my heart. So that went on for months, trying to make my life better. But then one night, it was actually July 2nd, 1998, I went out with some buddies, went out partying. It was Thursday night, and we came back to one of our buddies' houses, and we're all, pretty drunk and high, but we're not like that drunk and high that I didn't know what was going on. I was super aware. And I remember we were all three sitting just kind of watching Sports Center, and the guy, one of my buddies looked at me, he said, "Hey, Robbie, he started flipping through the stations and just kind of going, and he stopped to tell a story to this guy. And when he stopped, he happened to stop on the Christian station. Now, I don't watch it now, but we definitely didn't watch it back then. So I'm sitting in my chair, kind of stoned a little bit, but not that stoned. And the guy on the TV, this is literally what happened. The guy on the TV goes, "Stop." He goes, "You, right there. Your back right ankle has been hurting for the past 2 or 3 days. You don't know what it is, but touch the screen and God will heal you." Now, my back right ankle had been hurting for the past 2 or 3 days. So I'm like, your heart starts. You ever in that moment where you feel like God's speaking to you, your heart's going, your palms are sweating, you're kind of like, why? You're like, oh, this is me. And then I was like, this ain't real. The guy goes, "It's real." So at that moment, I'm like, on the inside you're exploding, on the outside you're really doing nothing. That was one of those moments. So finally, it went to commercial. It's like this eternity of a pause. It went to commercial, and the guy next to me was like, "Hey, did you hear this story?" And I was like, "Did you see that?" And they're like, "What?" And I told them the story, and they're like, "Well, did you touch the screen?" I was like, "No, my grandma told me that it was just fake." And they just looked at me, and I was like, "I don't know." And I just kind of sat down. And that was on a Thursday night. So fast forward 5 days, and it was a Tuesday afternoon. That Monday night, there used to be a pool hall called RJ Gators. I took about $250 from a guy on that Monday night shooting pool. I remember walking out, it was 2 in the morning. I had, a wad of cash in my pocket. I had a sack of weed in my back pocket. And I remember standing on the edge of 16th, Southwest 16th, and I walked out of this bar at 2 a.m. And I looked at it. I was just so empty. I had a girlfriend, very pretty girlfriend, and all of these things that you would seem like kind of paint the picture of having everything. I was just empty. Went home, went to bed, woke up that next day at like 1 o'clock. I said, all right, I'm going to try and, I was taking a class at summer trying at Santa Fe to turn my GPA around, and so I went to Santa Fe College and studied, went to the library there, and sat down to study, and I was studying. I'd been studying for about an hour, and I smoked like 2 packs of cigarettes a day, so I had to go outside to smoke. So there was this girl sitting a couple of tables over, and I said, "Hey, can you watch my stuff? I'm going to go outside and make a phone call." And she's like, "Yeah." And so I go outside, I come back, and I tell the girl, "Thank you." And then she has to get up and go, and for a little bit, and she asked me the same thing. But when she comes back, she actually strikes up a conversation with me. So I had this hat real low. I probably smelled all nasty. I just looked like I looked like a druggie, is what I was. And she engaged with me in a conversation, and she was actually home for the summers and from a Christian college. So I'm like, "Hey, all these people that claim to be Christians, are they really Christians, especially at these Christian colleges?" And she's like, "Oh, no. A lot of people wear the t-shirt, but they're not the real deal." And I was like, "Okay, let's start a conversation." 3 hours later, next thing you know, she's sitting next to me. Literally 3 hours, she talked to me. And she's like, "Hey, wow, I was seriously counting the cost of, was Jesus real? And would he forgive me? I had a lot of bad stuff I'd done to myself and to other people." And I said, "God doesn't want anything to do with me." She's like, He cares, He loves you, He'll forgive you. So in that library, that moment, I said, all right, let's do it. I'm ready. Let's go all in. She looks at me, she's like, huh? I said, yeah. I said, what do I do? She's like, I don't know. I said, what? She's like, well, all right, I'll pray and then you pray. I said, all right. So she prayed, and God would tell me, it's no joke. I said, Jesus, I give you, and then, in my head at that moment, there was a scale, and these old school scales where you put stuff on the weight, it goes this way, this way. On this scale, in my mind, all I knew was God. And on this scale was everything else I had in life. I said, if you're willing to give up everything, you have me. And that's all I'm going to promise you. And that's why it took me 3 hours. I said, all right, God, I give up everything. I'm telling you, man, it was like a moment of awakening. So I said, Jesus, and so I started crying. So, I didn't cry. And then I started laughing. So I started crying and laughing at the same time. And I stood up in the library, and there's this big window. And they tore down this library a couple of years ago. I chained myself to it because I didn't want them to. But and I remember standing up, and I looked outside, and for the first time, I was just so aware of the creation that God had made. And I remember stood up, and I'm crying, I'm laughing, and she's just kind of freaking out. She's like, what did I just do? And I just said, woo! And everybody in the library is looking, and I'm like, what? And so she's kind of scared. It was a mess. So I was a guy, I worked at Publix at the time too, on the side, the one on Butler Plaza over here, and so I was the guy that would post, party at Robbie's house, BYOB, bring your own beer, and I was the guy that just smoking pot in the cooler, and kind of, because the freeze would kind of kill it, and I'd work high, and everybody knew I was like that party guy, and so I showed up the next day, and I'm like, hey! And they're like, hey! And I was like, hey, I got saved. And they're like, what does that mean? I was like, I don't know. I got God. They're like, what are you on now? I was like, no, seriously, God has transformed my life. I remember having conversations with 10 people standing around me, what happened to you? So I didn't know any Christians, anybody that followed Jesus or loved God. Just kind of said, so I went and I put a little thing on the time clock. I was like, all right, Bible study at Robbie's house. BYOB, bring your own Bible. So cheesy. And so I started Bible study. I was like, you're a Christian? You love God? You believe in God? I was like, this is awesome. There was all these secret people around, and there's like a hidden underground church right there in Publix. And man, he changed my world. So I'm a pastor now. Obviously, he said that at the greenhouse, but I really God changed me in such a way, and He's so real to me, and He daily does crazy things for me in my heart and opens my eyes, and all I want to do is help people see that light and get connected with Him. That's my vision. That's my heart. So even tonight, I'm going to share for a few moments in Psalms 139. My goal is that you'll be one step closer to realizing the height and the depth and the width of love that God has for you. I'm serious. He loves you so much. You're like, I'm messed up. Welcome to the party, all right? He told you I've got 17 kids. Is that what you said? I've got 2. I've got 2 kids. One of the pastors who worked with us says 8, and I'm not in that race. I got 2. I'm good. 11 and 7. My little girl, 11-year-old, she is quiet. My little boy is a full boy. He's like he'll walk up to me and say, hey, Dad, and he'll punch me in the stomach. And I'll slap him in the face, and that's kind of our greeting. He's like a manly man. It's a really bad story. What a bad story, I'll read the Bible. And he's 3 years old, so he really likes girls a lot. From 2, he would see girls and be like, and I keep fun with them. I'm like, this is bad. And so one day I'm snuggling with him in his bed, his mom's cleaning his room, Van's cleaning his room, and she's putting stuff away, and she grabs, and my wife has these Zumba or these DVDs with workout stuff or whatever, and there's one with yeah, I know. So he's I look at my wife pulls out this a DVD with this girl, a workout girl on there with halter top and fit and stuff, and Amanda's like, Matthew, what is this? And he's 3, and he just gets red and kind of puts his head down and kind of smiles a little bit. I was like, oh God, help this boy. Isn't that crazy? That's it. All right. So that's my story. That really is. I'll be around for a little while afterwards if you want to talk or hang out. But I want to read this passage in Psalms 139. I know you guys know the Psalms. It's one of my favorite Psalms, and I'm going to read the first maybe 12 passages. What's cool about this Psalm, it has like 4 big parts. If you want to look at this, and it's big theological points about God. And the first one is about God's omniscientness. In other words, His all-knowing. He knows everything, past, present, and future. He knows everything. Then the next 6 verses is about God's omnipresence. In other words, He is everywhere, all the time. Then the next 6 verses about God the Creator, and then the next 6 verses about God, His holiness. And I want to talk specifically about the first 12 passages for just a few moments, and I think it's going to really sharpen our hearts. So I'm going to read these first 12 verses. If you got it on your phone, that's great. If not, you can look on your neighbor, or if you don't have either one of those, you can just listen. O Lord, you have searched me and known me, and you know when I sit down and when I get up. You understand my thought from afar off. You search my path and my lying down, and aware of all my ways. For there is not a word on my tongue, but behold, O Lord, you know it all. You put yourself behind and before me, and keep your hand on me. Such knowledge is too wonderful for me. It is lofty, and I cannot fathom it. So that's kind of his, he's all-knowing. He knows everything about your words, your actions, your past. He knows everything, right? Verse 7, where shall I go from your spirit? So this is God's omnipresence. He's everywhere. Where can I go from your spirit? Or where shall I flee from your presence? If I ascend to heaven, you are there. If I make my bed in Sheol, you are there. So that's like the middle of the earth, down. If I take the wings of the morning and dwell at the end of the sea, even there your hand shall guide me, and your right hand shall take hold of me. If I say, surely the darkness shall cover me, and the light shall be as night about me, even the darkness is not dark to you. I love this little part right here. But the night shines as the day. The night shines as the day for God. And for the darkness is like light to you. So let me just pray real quick. Lord, I love you and so thankful to be here with these students. And would you let what I say about your amazing book captivate some hearts tonight? And Lord, some of us see you very well. Some of us have problems seeing you. Because we've got these scales on our eyes, Lord, or we've got these invisible glasses that make it dim or they're fogged up. Would you remove that dimness so we can see you fully? If you agree with that, would you just say amen? Amen. Amen. And there's one passage in this verse. I'm going to talk about these 2 parts of God. The first one is his omniscience. In other words, his all-knowing. He knows everything. And that word is his infinite knowledge and understanding of things past, present, and future. And there's this guy named Randy Wallace. Does anyone know who Randy Wallace is? He wrote an amazing movie that was directed by a guy named Mel Gibson. It wasn't Passion of the Christ for everyone that would vote that one. It was... Yeah, go ahead. What's that? Braveheart. Braveheart. He also wrote another one that the girls would like more, which is called... The Notebook. I cried a lot in The Notebook. That's made my wife very happy. The other was Secretary. So this guy, Randy Wallace, so someone was asking him how he did great things in life. And he used a Russian proverb. I want you to listen to this. And he said this. When a person is born, when you and I are born, he will walk one of 3 roads. There are no others. And these are the 3 options that every human being has to choose. The road to the left, the wolves will eat him. The road to the right, he will eat the wolves. The road in the middle, and that's on the crease, he will eat himself. So I want you to see this, because I want you to grasp it for a second. The road on the left, the wolves will eat him. The road on the right, he will eat the wolves. The road down the middle, he'll eat himself. And what Randall Wallace was talking about in that moment is your fears. So there's a road to the left, right, where you choose, and you let the fears of your life, and the path of your life, and the journey of your life that God knows, you let the fears consume you, and that's the life you live, is getting around your whole life around the things that fear you. Then there's the road to the right where you face your fears and you're confident, and then there's another road which you just be selfish and you make life all about you, and the wolves eat yourself. And I always had this vision. I used to have it taped in front of my computer, on top of my computer screen, where I'd say, listen, Robbie, eat the wolves. I mean, I'm saying I had this on my computer, so every time I'd open my computer every single day, I'd say, eat the wolves. And because every single day, we're making decisions about our future every single day, about our path. So when God says, I know your past, present, and future, I know your path, all right? He's talking about your path. Each one of us is going to have to take a moment and say, well, listen, what path, what decision, what way of living am I going to choose to live, right? And I love it because he said, hey, listen, face the road that would seem to be the hardest and eat the wolves. Conquer your fears. And this is what I think about God's, his sovereignty. I think God is obviously in control, but what do we do with the fact that we have choice, right? So there's like this mixture. God is in control. He's sovereign, right? He knows everything. But then he gives us his choice. And the image that came to mind was, there's like a freeway. There's like an interstate. On each side of the interstate is like these guardrails, right? And he says, hey, listen, you can drive as fast as you want, and you can go all over the interstate, but there's some level of limitation. Like, for instance, you didn't choose a lot of the things about you. You didn't choose your hair color. I mean, you're trying to choose it, but I'm saying like you didn't initially choose your hair color. You didn't choose the amount of your hair color. You didn't decide if you're going to be tall or short. You didn't decide you're going to have bass or treble. You didn't decide anything. So bad. I can't say that at church. I can say that here. And there's so much of your life. Listen to me. You didn't choose your skin tone. You didn't choose where you were born. You didn't choose who you're born to. You didn't choose your name. You maybe want to go back and change it. There's so much of your life that you did not choose. Does everybody know that? I mean, you are a product of God's sovereignty, and you're in this place right now because of His choosing. But God does this thing with your path, all-knowing, knowing past, present, and future. He actually does something really amazing, which is, he says, hey, listen, you're on this freeway. I've already kind of jump-started your car. I've already given you the vehicle you're going to use for the rest of your life. But you can travel at the speed, and there's some level of liberty in all that you're going to do in life that I'm going to leave up to you. Wow. And what are you going to do with that? I mean, what are you going to do with that? And this is the image, man. This is my vision. I don't live it every single day, but I want to live life with this path that God has given us, all knowing our past, present, and future. He's given us a level of choice that we can function in, right? How well you're going to study, like to some level comprehension is not up to you, but I'm just saying how level you're going to give yourself to whatever you're doing is ultimately up to you in some ways. And God's graced us. In His goodness, He's given to us the boundaries and the freedoms, which is pretty cool. And the word I'd like to give you is this. Would you live like a third grader at recess? Now, I don't know how you lived during recess when you were in the third grade, but I hated school in the third grade. I mean, I hated it. I hated math, hated reading, hated science, hated social studies. I hated everything about school. But recess, oh, I liked recess. And there was like these monkey bars, and there was these slides, and there was this tennis court. Man, I just loved it. So we got 15 minutes for recess, right? 15 minutes is all we got. So we would be in class all morning, then we would eat lunch, then they say, hey, recess. And man, I was the first at the door. Me and my buddies, there's about 6 or 8 of us, and we were ready. All day long we could stay late. But when recess came, it's like, here we go. And she blew the whistle, the teacher blew the whistle, and we would get 15 minutes. We would go to monkey bars, we'd go to slides, we'd go to do special monkey bars in like domes, you know what I'm talking about? The dome monkey bars, you can climb on top, but then you can, it's like a whole other world. Then there's like the monkey bars that I can never do pull-ups, that was kind of depressing, but anyway, so there was lots of parts. But man, I would go, and when she blew the whistle, that 15 minutes is up, we'd line up, and we'd be hot, we'd be red, we'd be sweating, our clothes would be ripped and dirty, and we'd probably gotten a couple of fights along the way, but me and my buddies would look at each other like, recess is over. You know? We maximize that season. Like, listen to me, students. Listen to me. If you can hear anything. My vision is I had a lot of regrets pre-Christ. Lots of regrets. Lots of pain and hurt and affliction I caused a lot of people. Disappointment, rejection, lies, stealing, theft. I mean, all this stuff. I was like, I hurt a lot of people. Listen to me. Since I've come to Christ, I'm going to eat some wolves, and I'm going to live like a third grader on recess. I'm going to maximize this season. And if I could say anything to all of you, maximize this season. I mean, seriously, live like a third grader at recess. You think life is busy? I remember a couple of years ago, someone was like, my life is so busy. look at my day. I have to get up and work out. And then I have to meet someone for coffee. Then I have class. And then I have lunch with so-and-so. And then I want to work out again and go run stadiums. And then I have class again. And then tonight I have micro-church. That's not busy! But that's some of our life. Oh, we're sitting there. You're busy by choice. Your life is going to get so complex. In about 10 years, you have the same complex. Scott, can you say amen to that? Where do you get your kids? Where do you get a spouse? Like, oh, we're going to do. All the guys are like, when I get a spouse, we're just going to have sex all the time. That is not marriage after the first 2 years, all right? First 2 years, yeah. I mean, but after the first 2 years, life is busy. Life is busy. So, hey, I'm not serious. Some of you are like, oh, once I get to this season in life, I'm going to live like crazy because this is just a holding pattern for real life. And then there's a group of students. This is what I did once I come to Christ when I was 22, man. I've lived, and I don't say like holistically, this is my vision. I would live like a third grader on recess. See, God's kind of set the trajectory and you're in a place, some of the things you've chosen and some of the things God has sovereignly given you at this point. But at this point forward, you do have a pretty wide freeway. And the intensity and the lack of intensity that you live at is really kind of up to you. Like it really is. It's like, what are you going to do with that season? I encourage you, listen to me. Maximize that. Maximize that. Get around some people that are going to spur you to do great things with your life during this season. Like, well, once I get my degree, I get out of this, or I get out of this. No, listen to me. Man, God's giving you a path, maximize it. So the other thing I thought about this passage in Psalms 139 that I really liked was the omnipresence of God and that He's everywhere all the time. So God is all-knowing, but He, in His sovereignty, gives us a choice. But He's also everywhere all the time. Then that passage where it says, where can I go from your spirit? And it's funny because I think we do the same thing. He said, listen, I've tried ascending to heaven. I've tried getting away from God by going to Sheol. I've tried going to the other side of the ocean. I've tried everything to be able to get away from God. And here's the reality. God is everywhere all the time. It's mind-boggling. And we think, just like Adam and Eve. So Adam and Eve, I don't know if you know the story, Genesis chapter 3. They ate the wrong tree, right? They could say, hey, God said, hey, you can eat everything. Sweet. They're just eating. He's like, don't eat that tree. And they're like, why? It's kind of like me saying, like, hey, listen, do not think about pink elephants. Just don't think about pink elephants. Don't picture them in your head, right? Pink elephants. What do? Pink elephants, right? There's something about us like, why can't I eat that tree? I mean, what's that tree about? So they go and eat the tree. So then they notice they're naked. So they're like, oh my gosh, they put on some fig leaves. And then they go and God starts showing up in the garden. And God plays his trick. It's funny if you do this. God's like, where are you, Adam and Eve? It's like when you pray in hide and go seek. I live in a 1,000 square foot house and I have 2 kids. There's 3 bedrooms. There's not many hide spaces. My kids used to when they were small and they said, Dad, let's play hide and go seek. It really was. I'd walk around the house and be like, where are you, Matthew? And I could hear them giggling the whole time. Like, and there's only 3 hide spots. We played this game 1,000 times. So I hear, oh, not in here. Oh, not in here. And it's that moment they're hiding, and God comes on the scene in the garden, and He's like, "Where are you, Adam and Eve?" Kind of this rhetorical question, like, "You idiots! Do you really think you're getting away from God, who is all-knowing, omnipresent? There's no getting away from Him." Now, this is what's dangerous. If you think God is bad, and you think God is out for the worst in you, you're definitely going to run from Him. If you think He's about to steal your pleasures in life, you're going to run from Him. See, what I got to the point after that 3 hours when I was on this scale, and when I looked at it, I was like, this seemed like pleasures from all that I've learned about life. So the hard thing for me was, God was going to take everything that was good in my life. And I come to this point of like, God, can I trust you that if I give up all of this, which seems like everything the world has told me is good, that you're going to be better than that? Man, that's tough. I mean, some of you are in that place in life right now where you're like, oh, is God really better than this? Will He really give me pleasures that equal blank, fill in the blank pleasure? And I came to that moment and I weighed the scale and I crossed the bridge and I jumped up out of the window and I was like, all right, God, catch me. I got there. God caught me. And it's the best decision I ever made in my life. By far. Second right close is Amanda. But man, that was it. And now you've got these moments where we compartmentalize our life, like, all right, God, I'll let you into when I go to Doulos, on Wednesday nights, man. Me and you are going there. You're my date there, all right? But then you got your sport life, right? How you play sports. You're like, all right, now listen, I'm about to go play basketball, and I'll see you in a couple hours, all right? Because I don't play basketball with you. I'm not going to, or you've got your, you fill in what you do, you feel like you're compartmentalizing, but here's the truth. He's always with you. He's always there. He's always alive. Some of you in here, I don't have a temper as much as I did, but man, there's a whole different Robbie that shifts playing basketball, where I can get intense. Some of you, I thought the guy earlier played lacrosse. I'm sure there's normal person, and then there's lacrosse person, right? There's normal person, and then there's soccer girl, right? There's hey, how you doing? Get out of my, there's this shift that can come really, really fast. And we have this tendency to compartment, thinking that we're getting away from God. Listen to me. He's always with you, and that is very, very good news. The problem is we're thinking, David said, where can I go from your presence? He wasn't running. He's like, where can I go from your presence? It really was this moment, God, I'm so thankful that no matter where I go, you're with me. You're pursuing me. I remember this story where I was actually there. It was at a Springs right outside of Gainesville. There's really a lot of cool springs all around Gainesville. And there was a dock. And there was this dad that was in the water. And he had a couple of daughters. And his daughters were jumping off the dock. The dock was maybe 10 feet high into the spring. And the spring wasn't that big. Dad could kind of sit there and wait on his daughters to jump. There was one particular daughter, and she had long red hair. And she was standing at the edge of the dock, and she'd go, and his dad's like, come on, sweetheart. And I was watching this whole scene. He's like, all right, come on and jump. And she'd go, and she'd like, all right, 1, 2, 3. She's like, I can't. And then she'd go, I want to do it, I want to do it, I want to do it. And he's like, all right, listen, I'm here. I'm going to catch you. She's like, Daddy, you're going to catch me. I'm going to catch you. Daddy, you're going to catch me. 1, 2, I can't, Daddy, I can't. So then her sister got up there with her and held her hand. He's like, listen, I want to jump with you. Daddy, you just saw Daddy catch me. He's going to catch you too. She's like, okay. You can see the girl's just nervous. She's like, 9. She's like, oh my gosh. She's holding her hand. She's like, all right, 1, 2, and they get a jump, and she lets go of her sister's hand. She's like, oh, I just can't. And this scene is built up. Pretty soon the whole Springs is watching this little girl, kind of cheering for her. He's like, come on, take the plunge, eat the wolf, I said that, and the girl's like, what are you talking about? So the girl, she's on the edge of this dock, and she's trying to build up this courage. And when you're watching from a distance, it's always easy to judge someone watching from a distance. When you're not on the dock, let's just be honest. We can always tell you what to do, but man, I can tell you how to live your life. I can see what you need. We're really good counselors for other people, honestly, aren't we? We're just horrible decision makers for our own life a lot of times. So we can tell the girl, just jump, man, just jump. We got this. He's right there. I watched him catch 3 people. But this girl just couldn't muster up the courage in front of him. And this went on for at least a minute. And so finally, it makes it seem like an hour, but it was at least 10 or 15 minutes. And the girl's building, but it's finally, she just jumps. And the dad called her, let her get about right here under the water, pulls her up. And the little redheaded girl just wraps him up and is choking him. And then he's like, hey, you all right? And then she's like, she lets go. She swims away. And then she just gets back on the dock. This time, I don't need you, Dad. I got this. And she just kind of keeps jumping. And so much of life is we resist the uncertainty. And sometimes our greatest pleasure in life is taking that leap of faith into the uncertainty and letting God grab you. I'm serious. Someone's like, oh, listen, you don't have to be afraid of anything. Listen, I was deeply afraid when I was confronted with the reality of God and me really giving myself to Him and follow Him. I didn't know what that meant. I'm serious. I still don't know what that means to some level. I'm in that journey. I was like, God, but what do I have to give up? And He's like, I said, what are you going to give me? God's like, me. I said, what? I got a lot going on here, God. You can see my whole world here. I mean, this is pretty good for the world standards, God's like, listen, I'm going to give you me. I said, well, do I have to stop doing this? He said, you don't get it. You don't get it. It's not what you're about to stop doing. It's about what you're about to get. I said, well, God, can I keep this relationship? He's like, listen, I'm here to give you more rules. I'm here to give you life.
Mom.
And that was it. I was like, oh, So I don't have to stop doing anything? He's like, no. I said, so there's not like a whole bunch of rules I have to follow? He's like, no. I was like, so I can keep smoking pot? He's like, that's life for you. But I knew pot wasn't life for me. I knew addiction wasn't life for me. I didn't actually want all those things. So when I jumped, I'm serious, when I jumped in that library that day, I said, all right, I left everything. And God's given me life. Given me incredible things. I can't promise you incredible things. I can't promise you this. Life in the midst of everything when you're following God. Life in the midst of everything. So remember this, Psalms 139, all right? Psalms 139. He's giving you this path. Live to the fullest in it. Two is this. He is all-knowing everywhere, but that's a good thing. And I encourage you to embrace this relationship with Him. Embrace it. Some of you are making some big decisions. Big decisions about a lot of things, right? I talk to students all the time. I don't know if I should change my major. I'm finishing up my last class in my senior year. I don't know if I should change my major. No. There's all these big decisions in life. I encourage you that the most important decision you're going to make ever is what you're going to do with the reality of the living God that loves you. And I love this one passage, this one scripture, then we're just going to close here and I'll hand it to you guys. When I'm thinking about all of the stuff I had done and continue to do, the times I really get mad at my kids, the time I'm not serving my wife, the times I'm tempted with all these things on the inside, and I'm like, God, do you really love me? And that passage, and it was funny because when Tim Tebow wore that back in the day when he put John 3:16 on his, you guys remember that? You know what the most Googled thing on that night was? John 3:16. Because most of the world doesn't know what John 3:16 is. They just heard the verse or seen the sign behind the goalpost, John 3:16. And so when they saw it on there, they're like, what is that? And it's this passage that really sums up like God's passion for us and His, like, where can I go from your spirit? Listen, for God so loved the world. This is that passage. Crazy. He so loved you and me. It's not just He loved, God loved. No. I like having that word so in there. Like He's so loved. I mean, with a deep passion. I mean, with a sacrificial passion. He's so loved that He gave His only Son. I mean, that's an intense love. He's so loved. I mean, you got to put your name in there. Because the problem is, if you think world, you're like, oh yeah, I bet He loves all the starving children around the world. The world, that's what it means. No, listen. God so loved Robbie that He gave His only Son, Jesus Christ, to die on the cross. This is the gospel. This is the good news. It's not behavior modification. It's not more morality. It's not a message of ethics. It's a message of transformation by the God of this universe. I've been forgiven. I've been redeemed. I've been cleansed. I've been given life. You know, they talk about that there's living waters on the inside, which is a crazy thing. There's this rushing waterfall on the inside of you when you become a son or daughter of God. Listen to me, young man in this room. God so loved you that He gave His only Son, Jesus Christ, to die for you. Young lady in this room, God so loved you. Like, does God love me? Some of you guys, some of the girls are going to take it, rolling. You're like, does God love me? You throw a pet at him. He does love me. No, I'm serious. It's a love so intense, so crazy. There's nothing you have done, nothing that you ever will do, push Him far enough away. His love is just too intense. We can't get it because we reject people, they reject us. They give us what we give them. You reject God, and He just never leaves. Where can you go from His Spirit? Which His Spirit is good. So let me just close in prayer.